3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to move on to part 3 of animating with code. What we are going to do is very similar to what we did in the first 2 parts, but instead of duplicating one mandala many times, we are going to take the 3 mandalas, the 3 circle designs that you made for the texture and pattern, part 2 of project 3. Before we do that, we could open up our animating with code, and what we want to do is this little bit of code on your first sprite here should look like this. We want to save it. So if you click down here, this is the backpack. You can move code and sprites and audio around. So you want to make sure you toss that down in your backpack so we can add it to our next project for part 3. Now what we need to do is if we go back to our Google Classroom and we click on project 3, symmetry with the sign, we open that up. You should have all these on your computers, but say if you wanted to open one up, you can double click and click the download button on the top right here, okay? So then what you want to do is you want to have all 3 of your mandalas from project 3 part 2, the texture and pattern ones, downloaded on your computer, and then we're going to create a new image and we're going to make 500 by 500 just like the last project. 500 by 500, click transparent, click OK. Now what we're going to do is layer, open images layer, and we are going to go in and you're going to find wherever your design pattern was. You're going to open it up. You're going to do an edit free transform. You're going to shrink it down. Now I'm using some student examples. You should be using your 3 patterns that you made for that project. You can kind of turn it if you want to, but what you want to do is make it pretty much try to get it as close as possible for filling up the space. Make sure you don't touch the edges, okay? That's the main thing. Then you're going to do a file save. And what are we going to call it? We're going to make it a PNG and we're going to call it Scratch Design 1. Click OK. And then we're going to go to project 5, Scratch Design 1, and you're going to save it. Here's the way you can save time. Don't open up a new project. All you're going to do is right click and delete that layer. And you're going to bring in your second one. Once you've done that, and you've got all 3 of your images signed, we're going to go back to Scratch and we're going to create a new project and we're going to import all 3 of them right now. So I'm going to go create, right click, delete the default sprite, open up my sprites. I'm going to load Scratch Pattern 1, load Scratch Pattern 2, and load Scratch Pattern 3. Now I can open up my backpack. I'm going to bring in that code. I'm going to click to each sprite that basic code. So this is setting to 90%. So now all of them are rotating. So I'm going to left click here. I'm going to move this one over. I'm going to move this guy over, move this one up. So notice the code tells it to go in the middle. So when I press play, the last one I touch is always going to be on top. Later on, we're going to make some code to create those layers in Scratch. But for right now, if you want to arrange these 3, it's the last one you touch will come to the top of the 3. So think about which one you want in the very back. I think that I'm going to take this one in the very back. So I'm going to leave that big and then I'm going to put this one in the middle. So I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. I'm going to go from 90 to, let's go to 70%. And then this one I want at the very end. And so let's do that down to 50%. Okay. I'm going to press play. So now my objects have started to be arranged. Now for the middle one, I want to create some difference. It just looks like they're all moving together. So how would I do that? Well, I am going to put that negative in there. It's going to start to spin. Oh, so I actually clicked the wrong one. The negative I wanted in the middle, right? But I could just do the front and back and keep the negative. So I'll do 2 negatives, 2 going to the left and 1 going to the right. I think that you're starting to get the hang of it now. So it looks like the back and the front one are moving at the same speed, right? How we can further differentiate or make it look like they're moving differently is we can change the time a little bit. So if I set this up to or if I set the back one, I'll set that to 0.05. If I increase that number, it'll go a little bit slower. So now it looks like they're moving at different speeds, right? So things are looking really good now. And I think that that'll be enough for part 3. I'm excited to start into part 4. We're going to add special effects to these layers. So I'll see you there in just a second. Have a good one. Bye.